This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Over 25 years helping leaders reducing errors and incidents. Here is your host of the Essential Leadership Cycle podcast, Rob Fisher.
Welcome to episode 9 of the Essential Leadership Cycle podcast. I'm your host and intentional leader, Rob Fisher, coming to you from the ArrowHP.com studios in the Fit Center for Excellence here in Concord, North Carolina. In the last episode, we described the 7th attribute of the Essential Leadership Cycle, accountability. I hope listeners immediately use some of the recommendations at the end of the podcast to start making changes in their intentional leadership. But now you should have downloaded the eColors app and are using that information to manage your strengths and potential limiters in your day-to-day interactions. In this episode, I'm going to discuss the next attribute of the Essential Leadership Cycle, learning and continuous improvement. Years ago in nuclear power, there was a letter published that stated that the industry had a problem with companies not being a learning organization. Now, as a member of the team that was studying the problem, we thought that the declaration of this phenomenon was a bit premature and, based on the evidence we had, not an accurate description of the driver of the challenges, but it was still worth looking at. So what does it mean to learn as an organization? Well, learning is more than just knowing something. We've probably seen hundreds of examples where an organization knows something but doesn't do the right thing. That's not learning. Working with a major oil and gas support organization was a treat because the leader wanted the team to separate lessons from learning. So many people call things lessons learned that it's become quite the buzzword in industry. But if you really break it down, first, we have to give the lesson in a way that people in the organization understand. Then we can learn and verify that the knowledge was actually gained and being used effectively. Very different things, very different processes. Learning and continuous improvement rely on the critical initial attribute of the Essential Leadership Cycle, self and team awareness. What do we know and not know? What are the gaps in our knowledge and skills? Then we can see where we need to learn so that we can improve. One of the most powerful ongoing processes an organization can use for learning and continuous improvement is the debrief process. In organizations that create a debrief culture, in other words, we know going in that whatever we do is going to get debriefed so that we can learn from it, then learning and continuous improvement can flourish. Since the organization works every day on self and team awareness of conditions, knowledge, skills, and gaps, and they have interactive engagements every day about the shared vision and values, did we accomplish our objectives and what went well? And there is a tried and true process in place that gathers the best of the needed information in a short period of time to enable organizational individual learning. Then people can start to trust the system and the organization. They offer up their diverse thoughts, processes, and opinions on each task, making it easier for them to commit to the overall processes and outcomes that they will hold themselves accountable to. As you can see, it takes every attribute of the Essential Leadership Cycle to enable great organizational learning and continuous improvement that doesn't rely on an incident to make it work. In about 1992, Senge published some attributes of a learning organization: systems thinking, personal mastery, mental models, building shared vision, and team learning. Let's go back over those very quickly. Systems thinking. Well, in advanced error reduction, we use the task-based system and the Essential Leadership Cycle. That's where the impact of HOP concepts comes on things like process safety, using a systems approach that everyone in the organization uses. Personal mastery. How do we get individual capability and capacity to meet or exceed the demands of a task? We use a model called the WITH model: work environment, individual capabilities, task demands, and human nature. Based on the work environment, What are the demands of the task? And does the individual doing that task, even if it's you, have the capability and capacity to do that task within the boundaries of what we know about human nature? Mental models like the general error modeling system, performance modes, skill-based, rule-based, knowledge-based, understanding System 1 and System 2 thinking, the 3 T's, traps, triggers, and tools, and how our personality tendencies impact how we see and manage risk and how we communicate. Building shared vision. We can tie this directly back to self and team awareness and shared vision and values. He thought it was important to use stories to help understand whether you have a shared vision and value set and to build that shared vision. And his last attribute was team learning. One of the things that we've used for decades is called a facilitated improvement team, an FIT. Facilitated improvement teams don't require an incident for an organization to learn what the attributes of success and failure are. You can tie this back directly again to being a self and team awareness, shared vision and value, and clear roles and processes attribute. So what can you do? First, revisit your self and team awareness related to the attributes of a learning organization: systems thinking, personal mastery, mental models, building a shared vision, and team learning. Do we use science-based thinking and systems thinking? Do we ensure and enable the mastery of the HOP concepts related to individual capacity, task demands, and how we manage that as a team? Do we understand the mental models associated with error and success? And do we use them correctly in our organization every day? Do we work every day on engaging to ensure a shared vision and value set? And do we drive the organization to engage in team learning opportunities like facilitated improvement teams to gather the information that enables organizational learning before an incident happens? And last but certainly not least, do we empower and enable a debrief culture that is supported by all of the elements of the essential leadership cycle? If you do those things, your team will learn things the first time, and usually before something bad happens that forces you to have to learn it. Until next time, this has been your host, Rob Fisher. Thanks for listening, and remember, intentional leadership starts with you.